Okay,
Okay, done.
so, yeah, while we're waiting for Kylene,
Hey, everybody.
Hello, David.
Hi, David.
Howdy.
um, how, so where's everybody at? Fred, Lori, you guys are done, right?
Yes.
Yep.
Congratulations. Joel, when is your last day?
Tomorrow?
Tomorrow. Awesome.
Exciting.
Oh. Yeah.
Um,
You already have your fridge packed with beer.
No, not yet.
Not yet. David, Joel. Okay. Did everyone write down their why?
Yes.
No.
No.
Did you write down?
Why, what?
Why did you do the cleanse?
Because you wanted to do it.
Quickly write it down. Write it down if that's it, right?
Yeah.
made me.
Oh dear. Joel, was yours the same reason?
Um,
You did it because I wanted it to do it?
Not you.
Lori,
Not you, Lori.
Florence.
We don't
It was-
know each other that well.
It was Kylene's idea, but I realized it was a good idea on my own. So
Awesome.
I signed myself up for the punishment.
Yeah, excellent. But you felt like it was a worthwhile 21 days?
Oh, yes, definitely.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
You want to expand on that a little bit more? Not to pick on you, but
No, I mean, not at all. It's just, I mean, like I said to Kylene the other night, I've never eaten this cleanly at all in my life, probably. So it's a whole, something completely different than what I've ever done. I've ate maybe fairly healthy at times, but I've never eaten this cleanly.
sure.
And I mean, we did the keto a few years ago and it was great and I felt good, but I feel like this is something that would be keto's great for a while, but it's not something that I think it would be. I could do. I can't eat that diet forever.
Sure.
And this is something like health wise, I think long run doing something like this, or if you wanted to make a diet like this, you could easily be very healthy and improve health conditions a lot more by doing this.
Okay. So this feels more sustainable to you.
Yeah.
Awesome.
During my massage, I was discussing the food in different countries. And when you're doing this, you're examining the ingredients of many things that you ordinarily eat.
Sure.
90% of the blasted cans have sugar in it.
He had to do so many returns.
Excellent. It's a good life lesson right there, Fred. Here's
And then in Europe, all their grains are GMO, or not GMO.
yes.
And so it makes it, they eat a lot better than what we eat because our government has allowed this to happen.
Yes. Yes. They definitely have cleaner, more strict laws that they abide by, right?
To
Yes.
protect their existing food industries.
Yeah. Yeah. Hi, Kylene.
Howdy.
Hi. How are
Hey, she
you?
showed up.
Glad you can make it.
Yeah, thanks for pushing it out.
Yes.
I wanted to be here.
Good. We're glad you're here. So we were just because we knew where you were showing up, so I was just kind of distracting people with their whys, and Joel said
Oh, yeah.
Joel mentioned that this felt a lot more well, first of all, he said that he feels like this is the most clean he's ever eaten, and that it feels more sustainable than, say, the keto eating and whatnot. So yeah. Did you ever write down your why? And don't feel bad if you didn't, because there's a lot of people who fit into that category. Okay.
I didn't write it down, but I've been thinking about it and like, saying it out loud. Cause I get asked by people, I don't know if the rest of you guys do, get asked like, why are you doing this? Right. And I'm like, I've always wanted to do a cleanse. So like, and I think I've mentioned that to Kara, like I always wanted to like eliminate things and like have it be strict because if I don't have it, if I'm not like in a program, I'm not going to just eliminate things or do it on my own. So
Yeah.
for me to do it, this was like you gave us the opportunity. And then just to see like how I would react to different things and if things would help or not help. And I do feel like it's, helped with like mood and things. But then also I think it's helped. What I've liked about it too is just like making different things, right? Like not just like going out to eat as much, not making kind of the same old things and being more conscious of what I am eating, like looking at ingredients and kind of thinking about what all I'm eating as opposed to just like, oh, I'm going to make this meal and that sounds good. And, yeah, it says to add sugar, but now I'm like, why do I need to put sugar in anything, right?
Absolutely.
Or if I
Absolutely.
do less of it or a different kind, right? So
Yeah.
that's kind of the why for me.
Okay. Awesome. Lori, did you want to share your why? And it's
Yeah,
okay if you don't.
Oh, thanks, Karen. I'll share. So my why was that I wanted to not feel like every step was a work, to have more energy, and just to feel better overall.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. All good. All good. Okay. So let's go ahead and dive into the slideshow. I feel like we kind of have a lot to go over, but also it's not the end of the world if we don't. And then I also want you guys to, I'd love to get your feedback and we'll also do a little bit of journal. Well, I'll ask you some questions. So definitely make sure you have something to write with. And yeah, great. You'd think that I'd be able to remember how to do this each time. Okay, share screen. Here we go. All right, so
Yay.
first of all, congratulations to those of you who are done. And so Joel mentioned that you guys your last day is tomorrow.
Mhm.
So early congratulations to you guys. And so so it's interesting because like I said, it's been a really long time since I have run this program with other participants other than like my mom reaching out and being like, hey, we want to do a cleanse, and David and I being like, okay, we'll join you. So it was interesting to kind of look back on the slideshows. I feel like when I had my Pilates studio, really what people's why for doing this was losing weight. And the more I've kind of learned about weight loss, this program and weight loss don't necessarily meld together, in my opinion.
Mhm.
I think this is a great program to, clearly the why of the program is to give your liver and those other organs of detoxification the chance to do their job and really detoxify the body. And through that process, there will definitely be some initial weight loss. But I think truly, in order to maintain that weight loss, you would have to maintain the program, which I don't think is sustainable. So today we'll talk about food reintroduction and what that'll look like for you guys. So you can always ignore that question on there. Basically, I just want to put these out there for you guys. And if anybody has answers to them that they'd like to share, and I can prompt stuff too if nobody, you know, decides to divulge information. Does anyone want to go longer? I'll just start with that one.
Longer on this or something? On this?
Yeah.
Well, incorporate parts of it. And I mean, if you want to, I mean, I think I've lost weight on this and it's because of the program, but it's also, I feel like what I'm eating and maybe calorie intake, because losing weight is basically calories in, calories out. If there's more going in than is going out, you're gaining weight. If there's more going out than going in, you're losing weight.
Yes.
So
In theory, yes. But no, you definitely have a point, right? So do you feel like you're eating less right now, Joel, would you say? Than typical?
Yes, I feel like I'm eating less calories than I do when I eat things that aren't as good for me.
Got you.
So, yes.
Okay. And I love the way you stated, like, yes, I mean, the impression that I got is, yes, there are things about the program that you do want to maintain in the long term, which is exactly what we're looking for, right? And that will be different for everyone, right? Like, I feel like usually when we get to this phase, in the program, like, I feel like the majority of the group is like, all right, peace out. I'm ready to go have a burger and a beer. And I'm like, okay, cool. You know, like,
I am ready to.
you know, and
Yeah, I'm nervous about, I don't want to go out and just do it all, right? I'm like, what is the baby steps? Because I don't want to just like go back to where we were, right? Or feel like shit because I just put a bunch of crap in my mouth.
yeah,
It's really
Kylene said she wants pizza.
No, well, we saw a picture of some good pizza, a new pizza place opening. I'm like, oh, that looks good. Like, I really want cheese, you know, I want some
Yeah,
cheese.
that's my problem.
yes,
Yeah, I mean, we started with eggs today and we were like so excited.
Oh, that's exciting too.
yeah.
But we're waiting for the dairy. Dairy's coming next.
So,
I mean, I would just like to put in like a hard-boiled egg in my salad I'm taking to lunch. I mean, that sounds really good.
yeah, yeah. I do have to say eggs was, I think we started with dairy and then eggs was next for us. So point being, there are some very healthy foods that we haven't been able to eat for 21 days. And Kylene, I love where you're at. Because yes, the proper way to do this, because you're in a pretty unique spot right now that you haven't had these high allergen foods for 21 days. So you're in a unique position, and I'm going to show you a few ways to take advantage of that and slowly bring foods back in so that if you do notice some symptoms resurface, you'll be able to figure out what foods are causing it. And I wanted to point that like, just know that this is going to be different for everybody, right? So if you're in a place where you're going out to eat and you're going to have a burger and do it all, that is not an uncommon thing. I just want to say that.
Yeah.
But I also feel like you all have put really hard work into this 21 days. So I do want to show you ways, to bring things back in. So like I said, when I would roll out this program in Seattle, it seemed like everyone's main goal was weight loss. So what I've put in here, and if weight loss is a goal for you, this will assist you in that. So my email had a lot of stuff in it. Some things you'll look at, or hopefully you'll look at everything. Some things you'll use, some things you won't, and that's just fine. And if you get to a point where you're like, look at one of the handouts and you have no idea what you're supposed to do with it, but you might be interested, just reach out and I'm more than happy to like do a quick little Zoom and walk you through anything. So if weight loss was a goal for you and you haven't hit kind of that sweet spot of what that weight loss was for you, I'm going to show you this pamphlet. There's a phase 1 and a phase 2. Phase 1 of these dietary guidelines it breaks a lot of vegetables out by their carbohydrate content. So really those vegetables that have a lower carbohydrate ratio, you can kind of eat freely. And then the vegetables that have a higher carbohydrate content, it'll give you specifics on there, and I'll bring it up there so we can look at it together and you can see everything. I just want to make sure I cover all this before I bring it up. And then phase 2 is kind of dietary guidelines for folks who are interested in maintaining their weight loss once they've hit that number, if anybody has a number. And if you don't have a number, that's just fine too. And if weight loss isn't a goal for you, that's amazing as well. So what we will talk about today is, even if weight loss is a goal for you, bringing back some very healthy, nutritious foods, such as eggs, nuts, quality dairy, and I'll leave it at that. I might have left something out. Yeah, Lori.
And could you define like what's quality dairy, just so that we're clear on that?
Yeah, good question. So, they're out there in the world, and you might have never noticed this before, but there is raw dairy, there's raw milk, there's raw cheeses. Some cheeses are just typically done raw, like Parmesan cheese is a good example of raw cheese. When cheese is raw, it hasn't been pasteurized, it hasn't been highly processed. So it has a lot of those enzymes that help break the food down, and help folks digest it better. So folks, what I would suggest is starting with a raw dairy cheese or something cultured like yogurt, because those are going to be easier to digest for the body. And if that works for you and you don't notice any symptoms, then I would kind of carry on with just regular dairy. And you might not notice a difference between the two, but you might also.
Is Asiago raw?
That's a good question. Do you know the answer to that?
I would think it is, because it's pretty much
Yeah.
the same process,
Okay.
different region.
Gruyere is one that we are able to get at Costco, and it's raw. We spend a lot of money to source raw cheddar, and I think it's totally worth it. But anyway, so as you bring these foods back in, I'm going to show you a couple tools that you can use to determine if they are creating symptoms for you. But if this is the way you decide to reintroduce things, what I will say is take everything really slowly. You're going to go one item by one item, and you're going to give your body, if you notice any reactions, you're going to give your body some time to recover from the symptom before you bring in the next item. And journal it, like write everything down, just as far as symptoms. And it could take, like it might, if you are sensitive to a food, symptoms might show up straight away, or it could be that they don't surface for a few days. And that's why we don't want to like bring everything at the same time at the same time, because you won't know what's causing what. And yeah, I think the scale, sorry, go ahead, Kylene.
So for 3 days, you'd have like eggs,
Yeah.
and then you would take a break and try something else the next 3 days or
Well,
something?
so,
Is it-
so what you do is you would bring eggs in um for your first day. And if you don't notice any symptoms come
Mhm.
about, you're gonna keep eggs in, and then you're
Okay.
gonna move on to the next food. Yeah, so you wouldn't backtrack out of a food at any point unless you notice some symptoms coming up.
Okay.
And then I think another tool, I know some people are super opposed to a scale, but I actually feel like it's a great tool to just let it basically is telling you if your body is starting to inflame or not, which I think is pretty important. So I think if you can kind of, I don't know, I feel like a lot of people are very emotional when it comes to a scale, and I understand that, but if you can move away from that and really use it as a research tool, I think it's super smart.
Kara, what do you mean by a scale though?
To step on. So
That kind, okay.
yeah, not like a food
Got
scale.
it.
Yeah, good question.
I
Um,
didn't, okay, got it.
Yeah. So, and just for example, I mean, so David and I, when we are doing a program like this and just kind of regularly, sometimes we fall out of the habit, but like I weigh myself at a certain time, at least once a week, just to kind of know like where I'm at. And if I am in the middle of a program, I'm doing it more than once a week. I would do it every day if my schedule was that I would be in the bathroom at the same time every morning, but I'm not. So, and I think, just pick a time that makes sense for you and just make sure that you're doing it at the same time, because you will get different readings throughout your day.
Is there a good time, or does it matter? Like morning or night? Like, does it matter?
Probably morning is best, just because you've had the whole, like your whole sleep period to not really be ingesting food. So I think in my mind, morning is probably best. Just, yeah, before you consume your first meal or whatever.
Or if you need a mental boost, like wake up the first time after a really big meal, and then the next time, like after your morning BM, and hey, you're gonna be like, "Ooh, I killed you."
Yeah.
Yep.
David, you're gonna get uninvited.
It's true. It's true.
But
mean,
I thought
certainly true for dogs.
that's really a good habit to do that. And I know with a heart condition, people with congestive heart failure are supposed to do that every day, but I've never done it. Yeah, pardon?
Weigh yourself?
Yeah, yeah,
Interesting.
so that you're retaining fluid, so,
Wow.
but anyway, I've never done that, but I think that's a really good habit because it just keeps you aware, and sometimes it just makes you think like, wait a minute, yeah,
Right.
I've been losing, a half a pound every other day or something, so that, why didn't I, and what did I consume, to kind of reflect on that, yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, and then phase two, I guess, phase two has pretty much like everything on it. But if that's what you're moving into from here and you want to be aware of what foods your body is sensitive to, you would do the exact same process. So I couldn't, get, sorry, I'm talking to myself out loud. Okay, so here are the dietary guidelines. Can you all see that pretty well?
Yeah, really good.
Okay, so and you guys all have this handout. You have the file for it in this last email. So if you look at it more closely and have questions, feel free to reach out. So mainly, the difference here is that they have the vegetables broken down into different categories as per their carbohydrate content. So and you all did the keto program. So if you remember correctly, to keep blood sugar levels stable and insulin minimized, really it doesn't come down to necessarily what food it is, but what the carbohydrate and insulin impact it's going to have on your body. So I like the way they've broken this down. If you look really closely at it, you'll notice some weird things like, why is celery in 2 categories?
Do you have a printout of that?
And I don't like, clearly they missed a couple things when they put this list together. So just know that if you're wondering why on the phase 2 celery is in the category of 12 to 21% carbohydrate, just ignore that. You can eat as much celery as you like, and it's not going to affect your blood sugar levels.
Yeah,
Yeah,
not much to it.
yeah. I don't know how that got past the standard process editors, but so the other thing to note on here is that different from the 21-day cleanse, fruit is now, they suggest fruit to only be used in shakes. And the reason for that being is in the shakes, they have a quality fat in them. There is protein powder in there. So as a full shake, you're going to have that as like the fruit is supported with other items to help balance out blood sugar levels. Whereas you eat fruit by itself away from a meal, chances are it's going to spike blood sugar levels. Does that make sense?
But would whipped cream on fruit be a nice like end of the meal thing?
Absolutely. Yeah. So if you are going to eat fruit, I think it's very smart to eat fruit kind of as a dessert at the end of your meal. And I love the idea of adding a quality fat, whether that's like a coconut cream or some whipped cream or some nuts and some seeds, like to help make it a little bit more substantial. I love that idea.
Some homemade whipped
Could that also be a breakfast, like an apple with some nuts or something?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Great. So there is phase 1, which is where they suggest you stay if weight loss is a goal for you. And then here's phase 2, which is where they suggest you move to once you've reached that that number if you have it. So now they still suggest, well, no, so sorry, they changed fruit a little bit. So in limited quantities as shakes or snacks. And if you are having it as a snack, do exactly what Kylene just mentioned, where you have more things to it, right? Or the whipped cream to help decrease how it decrease the insulin surge. And now what else changes? Now they add in things like grains. And so coming off cleanse, we're used to eating a lot more grains than we probably typically would, or maybe not. The great thing is that they've been quality grains, which could be different from pre-cleanse. But they give very specific, like if you're going to eat those low glycemic grains like quinoa and wild rice, it's 2 to 3 times per week, as opposed to not having them at all when you are still in that phase of trying to lose weight. And then they also put in some more like carbohydrate rich vegetables in that that third category there. Yeah.
So oatmeal isn't good for you?
Does oatmeal fit in here anywhere?
That's a great question. And so in my mind, oats are going to be quite heavy carbohydrate rich foods. So I
Yeah.
wouldn't recommend eating them by themselves. I would, just like with the fruit, I would, if I'm gonna eat them, I would add a quality fat, some nuts, some seeds, some cream, some coconut milk, something to help make it more substantial and help. But if you eat it by itself, it's definitely going to spike blood sugar levels.
So would whole milk be a quality fat or half and half or?
I would go for half and half just because why mess around? And the more fat, the better. Yeah,
Well,
Any-
whipping cream.
yeah, absolutely. Any other questions here before we move on?
How long are these phases?
So ultimately, basically, if you had a weight goal before you started the cleanse, you would stay on phase 1 until you reached your weight goal, and then you would move
Okay.
into phase 2. So it would be different. Or maybe you're just looking to kind of like make a baby step, like kind of between where you were cleanse and pre-cleanse. Like phase 2, I think, is a totally good place to stay and be for a while. Yeah. Okay.
This might be kind of outside all this, but like, I was never really, I mean, you always kind of like want to be healthier and you think, okay, if I'm going to do a cleanser, I'm going to start a healthier diet, like I'm going to naturally probably lose weight, right? So what I would be more curious about is like, what is that weight I should be at? Because I don't have like some goal, like, yeah, you look, it's like, okay, I look at pictures of myself and I'm like, oh, that doesn't look good. So like, where should I be, right? But it's a combination of things. It's not just the food, it's also exercise and everything. So
Absolutely.
like, is there a place for you that you would recommend to go and find out where you, I don't know, where you should be or what?
That's a great question, Colleen. And I will answer it. I can't answer it off the top of my head.
No, that's fine. Yeah,
but-
that's why I said it would be something outside of this. Yeah.
But no, and I think it would actually be a really easy thing to find. And I think so. I'm gonna send out one more email with the program evaluation in it, which I hope you all fill out and just take a picture of it and text it to me. So with that email, I will send a link because I don't know that information off the top of my head, but I think it will be quite easy to find online. Okay, so I am gonna go back to this. Great. Okay, cool. So know that you all have this handout. Whether you want to make use of it or not is totally up to you. And then I just want to put this out here because with our typical American diet that we eat these days and how we've talked about how the way big ag has kind of raped the soil of nutrients that it's had in the past, our food, even if we're eating healthfully, is not as nutritious as it used to be. So I would just say to anyone that I don't know a whole lot about their eating habits or the symptoms that they're experiencing, I would say that any person in this day and age should be on a multivitamin, a fish oil, and a mineral supplement. And if you're interested in finding out what supplements are good for you, I would be more than happy to help you with that process. You know where to find me. All right. So I might be like, I feel like I'm kind of killing this point home. But I'm just going to put it out there. And I think this will be the last time we talk about it. Just because I feel like there are so many misconceptions about weight loss and I think it's also a very common goal for people. And I think it can be really frustrating. So 90% of diet is what's going to help, or sorry, I'm saying this totally wrong. diet is 90% of weight loss. I think a lot of people, they think it's exercise, which yeah, exercise is great, but I would say truly, like, you could have an amazing diet, keeping your blood sugar levels super stable, and you would see way more success than exercising 2 to 3 times a week if you were trying to like figure out which was more beneficial if weight loss was your goal. Food sensitivities do need to be removed, because if there are foods that you're sensitive to, when you consume them, your body will inflame. It's a natural healing response. And that's why kind of bringing foods slowly should help you figure this out. And it can also help with weight loss as well. And that's probably why up to this point, you know, in your cleanse, you have lost some weight. Just a reminder that toxins are stored in our fat cells if the liver can't properly eliminate them from their body. Also, another reason why we've probably all seen some weight loss thus far into the program. The other thing I think is important to point out is that fat does not make us fat. Consuming dietary fat does not make us fat. It's truly sugar, and that kind of out of control insulin levels that cause obesity in our bodies as a culture. So it's actually a hormonal problem, not a dietary element. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yeah.
Okay.
Could you say that again? I don't think I followed that.
Okay, so eating dietary fat is not going to make you fat.
Yeah.
Sugar is and unstable blood sugar levels is what creates obesity. Ultimately, it's a hormonal issue, because if you have a lot of insulin running through your system, it's going to throw other hormones out of balance. And insulin tells your body to store fat. Like, does that make sense?
Yes,
Okay.
totally.
Cool. I think a lot of times, and you know, I really hope that as a culture we're getting more education on this, and that truly dietary fat is not what creates obesity. But just in case the message isn't quite out there yet, I'm helping spread the word. Yeah. Movement, of course, helps. And I think, you know, exercise, just because we know all of the other benefits that it brings to our lives, is super important. And yes, it can help with weight loss. I just want to make it perfectly clear that it's not 100% responsible for weight loss, and dietary habits are going to be way more effective in weight loss. Stress is also a huge part of weight loss. Cortisol is a stress hormone. And like I said, if any one of your hormones, cortisol, insulin, or maybe both, are much higher than they should be, then all the other hormones are going to be affected as well. It's kind of an intricate balance. And stress could be anything, right? It could be just how you internalize something as a human. So I think it's important to pay attention to. The other thing I want to mention is that exercise is actually stress on the body as well. And in the appropriate amounts for people, exercise can create like a little bit of stress that helps your body become stronger and deal with. And the reason I'm saying this is because I feel like sometimes people's stress levels as far as work and just a fast-paced lifestyle can be so crazy that super intense workouts could actually be detrimental than beneficial. So just pay close attention to that. And I really have no idea what people's stress levels are like these days, but I just think overall there's a lot of stress floating around out there. And then kind of along those lines, I think sleep plays a huge role in that and just taking care of your body. All right, so pulse test. This is one way. Does anybody have any food by them?
Mm-mm.
No.
No.
Okay.
No.
So I'm just gonna kind of talk you guys through this. So one way to establish if your body is sensitive to a food is your nervous system will react. And as your nervous system reacts, your heart rate increases. So to do a pulse test, what you would do is you would sit down and you would you would choose whatever food you want to test. And you would get a little amount of it, say like a tablespoon or so, and then you'd sit down and you'd put the food in your mouth and you'd chew it. Oh, sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. You're gonna take your pulse before you put the food in your mouth. I find that I can only feel my pulse if I go here, not actually on my wrist, but you could do either way, wherever you can actually feel it. And you're gonna get a baseline test. I mean, we could do it. And if you do have access to food, you could totally go get the food and we could try it. But go ahead, just see if you can find your pulse. Dad, are you trying to find your pulse? And I would just like have my phone timer in front of me. I'd set it for a minute and I would count each pulse. And then you'd write down what your baseline pulse is. And then you'd write it down, and I'm pretty sure one of the files that I sent in that email had like a log to keep track of this in, I think. If not, I'll send it out in this last email. And then you would put the food in your mouth and you're just gonna chew it. You're not gonna swallow it, you're gonna chew it for 30 seconds. And that's just kind of telling your body that this is what's coming in. And chewing it for that 30 seconds is gonna give it enough time to react without even having to swallow it. Because if it is a food that you're sensitive to, chances are you're really not going to want to swallow it. You're going to want to spit it back out, rinse your mouth, and make sure that you don't eat it anymore because it throws your nervous system out of whack. So after you've done the little chew test, you are going to retake it with the food in your mouth. So you'll do the exact same thing. You'll set your timer for a minute. You'll count your pulse. And then once you're done after that minute, if it goes up 6 beats or more, that is a clear indication that it is a food that your body is sensitive to. And you won't want to consume it on a regular basis because you're putting your nervous system out of whack. Your body will inflame. And I have to be honest, I haven't had a ton of success with this. But there are people out there that it works for. So what I would say is play around with it a little bit if you're interested in it. And if you're not, the other thing I would suggest, I'm just going to leave this up here for, yes. So the other thing that you could do without having to take your pulse is just do a reintroductory phase with quality foods, or you could try it with bad foods too, just to kind of see what you notice. So I left this out here, like clearly for the past 21 days, you have been in a state of elimination, but I wanted to put days 1 through 14 here just in case you decide at some point you'd like to come back and try this again, then you would kind of eliminate all of those high allergens for 14 days. And then on day 15, you'd choose your suspected food, or you would choose the delicious food that you want to start with, like maybe it's eggs or maybe it's cheese. And so on that day, on that first day, you're going to consume it. You're going to consume it with all of your meals, which might seem a little excessive, but it's going to wait. If it is something that you're sensitive to, you will definitely notice those symptoms arise. And then on days 16, 17, and 18, if you haven't noticed any symptoms resurface, then you can start to bring in another food item. And I would just, if this is something that you're interested in doing, I would just take really good notes on what you're experiencing. I thought I had in this slideshow kind of a list of all the symptoms that you might experience. It could be itchy skin, it could be digestive, it could be mood related, it could be headaches. So there, and maybe I sent that in the email today, but there's a lot of things. So I would just, try and be super self-aware as you bring these foods in slowly and see what you notice.
Yeah, here, you did include that common
I did.
symptoms.
Okay.
Mhm.
It's a huge list. I mean, I think
It
just
is.
reading through it is kind of eye-opening. And then Lori and Fred, I just wanted to check with you guys. The last time you did this cleanse, did you slowly bring foods back in and kind of do a slow reintroduction phase, or did you?
I think we did the last time. I think the time before we did not.
Yeah. 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 So like I say, just kind of depending on how you're feeling and how you want to move forward, you have the info. And I tried to kind of keep it together in a way that if you want to revisit it at a later date, you have the info. I think also it's just kind of important to think about that, symptoms, it can take some time for symptoms to surface. So, just be aware of that. What was I going to say? And also, I feel like this isn't really like an allergic reaction. I feel like we all know if there are foods that we're allergic to, and they can have a very life-threatening effect on people. These are more of food sensitivities that I don't think are super apparent to people until they've had a period of time where they've eliminated, like doing a cleanse. So you might be surprised at what you find as you bring foods back in. Any questions there?
I was just gonna ask, could have some of those foods we were eating before been a symptom? Like, could they?
I think so. I think
Okay.
so. Yeah. Have you noticed some different stuff, Kylene?
Well, I just knew and it could have been anything, right? Because when we were talking about toxins and things like that, there were days where I would have headaches, or at different times headaches that just didn't feel great. But I don't know if that's the gas stove, the gas fireplace. So we've asked our landlord to come and clean the gas fireplace. So it could be other things, but I'm just curious if maybe there was something, because I haven't experienced it lately, but
Okay. Yeah. I mean, so do you think it was kind of in that initial phase of
yeah.
where you were clearing things?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Not to say that there isn't, because I think, and not to call out Stephanie because she's not here, but so at some point she sent me on Monday, she was like, I feel like I'm getting a lot of bloating. And so, and I think that's a great example, right? That is a very common indication that you're eating some sort of food that isn't agreeing with your body.
Mhm.
You know, so yeah, definitely. It could be anything for anybody. And I
Yeah.
think that's why it really is hard to pinpoint at times until you've gone, you know, and I think I fit into that category as well. Like I don't do well on a lot of grains and stuff. Um,
Mhm.
I'd say I always, every time we've done this, like the first 10 days or so, I get intermittent headaches as my body's
Yeah.
flushing toxins out. So especially that first 7 days when you're taking the
SP
cleanse,
cleanse.
because it's like it's pulling all these toxins and crap out of your fat cells and flushing it. And especially if you're not downing enough water to really flush that through, like
Mhm.
I definitely get headache.
Yeah. Yeah, because I felt like if I drank more water or if I ate something too, that would help. So I don't know if
Yeah.
that's if that's
Absolutely.
the case, maybe.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
think Kylie, we probably because I was like that's pretty common. I think David and I definitely experience that every time we're in that initial phase of the cleanse. But I think you weren't here for that meeting, and everybody was like, "Oh no, we're not experiencing any symptoms." I'm like, "Man, what's wrong with us?" So yeah, I think that's super common. And I would
Yeah, you're right. I did miss that.
pay attention to like if it comes back, you know,
Mhm.
it totally could be food related for sure.
Yeah.
All right, so everybody has their pen and paper. We're just gonna do I'm gonna prompt you with a couple questions and you'll write your answers down. You don't necessarily, I'll ask if anybody wants to share, but you definitely don't need to share with the group if that's not something that you feel comfortable doing. But the first question is, what have you learned from this cleanse experience? Then the second part of that, and don't worry, take your time, is what aspects of the cleanse would you like to maintain moving forward? And if you can be really descriptive, I think it'll help you be successful moving forward in kind of what does that look like for you? And then we'll hold off on the goal sheet for a moment. Great. Okay. Would anyone like to share what they learned from this experience?
Joel?
Not to put
It's a
pressure.
lot, it's a lot of work.
A lot of work. Okay, absolutely. What was the hardest part?
Just trying to figure out menus and food prep, and when you just want to sit down and not really do anything, then you're like, oh, I gotta and Kylene's up doing something, so I'm like, oh, I better get off my ass and help.
No. Good job. Okay. Anybody else?
I appreciate learning like just about more about foods and how they like affect us, and like, I don't know, reading ingredients more and seeing what things have in them, and just like, because I think, when everybody talks about like spending money on things, like why, and people get like, I remember like talking to Stephanie at first, like she's like, oh, it's gonna be expensive, I have to buy all these things. And I'm like, yeah, you're spending money on food that's going inside your body, right? Like, why is this a problem to like spend money on that? Of all things, we should be spending more money on that, instead of other material things. So for me, it's just about, keeping that all in mind. And, yeah, like it's been nice to learn more about that whole, food
Yeah.
and thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, ultimately, in investing, I think you have an amazing point, Kylene. Investing in the nutrients that you're putting in your body, to me, is an investment that's going to serve me in the future, right? Like it's going to keep me healthier longer as I get older. Which truly, if I were to say what my why is that is my why, right? Like I want to be physically active and capable as I get older. And I truly believe that this is how you do it, right? By putting quality food in your body. Totally worth it, I think, to a certain extent. I also feel like, of course, we all have budgets and things that we need to think about and stick to. But if you're gonna spend that money, what better place to put it? Yeah, I love it.
I thought what kind of relearned, because this is information that I know, but it was great to put it into practice again, that, eating well and having a good nutrition is an investment, and it can be delicious. It takes planning, but it has huge benefits. And of course, at our age, you know, people see us as being, well aware and cognizant of what we're putting into our bodies, and see us as being healthy. But the importance of how it impacts everything, like when you think of sleep and mood and irritability and all of those things, it's amazing. And to recognize that all those things are affected by what you put in your mouth is pretty important.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Like I don't, and I think that's a great takeaway, right? Like I don't think in this day and age we really think about like, I don't think we think about what we put in our mouth affects every cell in our body, which means it affects our brain, it affects our heart, it affects everything, because it's those nutrients that make up all those itty bitty cells that make up our body, right? Huge, huge. Okay, so I'm going to move on to the next question, unless there's anyone who really wants to give input on what they learned from this experience. And to start thinking about, does anyone have things that they want to maintain as they move on post cleanse?
The smoothies.
The smoothies. You like the smoothies. I love it. And I think I might have skipped over that a little bit in a previous slide. Sorry. But yeah, so chances are you have some protein powder left over, right? Super great. I would just use it, right? If you let it sit in your cupboard, it's just gonna go bad at some point. So I think, they make a great breakfast on the go, or, taking them to work or whatever for a snack. I think is great. It's, they're wonderful. And then also if you has everybody, like Lori and Fred, have you gone through all your supplements?
We have a few of the ones that we stopped taking after
Yeah.
7 days. We have a few
Oh,
of
the
those.
SP cleanse.
I think so.
Okay. I would just consume them, right?
Okay.
Unless you have like a ton left over and then you could save them for a cleanse down the line. But yeah, so with your supplements, I would just, you know, you don't need to consume them in the large quantity that has been prescribed, but you know, just throw a couple in your, with your meals and use them up. You know, whether that's just a little bit of liver support with the SP cleanse or some antioxidant support with the SP green food. Yeah, eat them. Yeah, anybody else?
I think what I wrote down is I'd like to maintain more, like eating more meals at home. I think because we were in a bad rut where we were going out too much, right? So like maybe do a little more meal planning, even though it's a lot of work, but like, you know, we can still do some of that and having more lunches prepared. Cause there was a time there, you know, we do the jar salads, you know, where we were doing those. And I think, you know, trying to maintain some more of that. And then I think it would be great to like keep off the sugar as long as I could. Cause it's like, you know, to have those sweets that, you know, those little brownie bites are like great. I made more of those and just like fruits in place of things instead of incorporating sugar, you know?
Oh, what are you doing?
So what are you showing there?
It's
The
a
Met
coupon for a
Market
cookie.
Oh.
coupon. Get one Met Market
Met Market
cookie,
cookie.
you get another one for free. And I was like, I don't even want that, right? I'm just like imagining all that sugar and like, oh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And then what would be an amazing goal for us is if we had alcohol only on the weekends, you know?
Yeah,
So that would
yeah.
be pretty, you know, and that could be Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Yeah.
That would be, you know, this is me speaking, not Joel.
Right. No, I think those are all amazing goals. I think
Yeah.
too, like dining out is a double-edged sword because, you know, of course you have a little input as to what you want to consume while you're dining out, but there's so much that just with restaurants trying to keep down food costs that they don't use quality ingredients necessarily. And you know, again, like just like when you're out there reading ingredient labels, like I would say, and David, you could probably give more input on this, but yeah, like just the other day, I don't, were you telling me that like a lot of times restaurants won't use pure olive oil, like they'll cut it with canola, and that was news to me. Like I knew that it's hard to find quality oils when you're out there dining, but I had no idea that one might think that they're eating olive oil when ultimately they're eating a mix of.
Yeah.
So,
Usually if it's like olive oil called out on a menu, it is just canola oil.
okay.
Well,
If it says EVO or extra virgin olive oil, then it is actually olive oil.
okay.
But if it just says olive oil, it's probably a blend.
Yeah, that's called that in a lot of restaurants here.
Okay.
But also eating out it's gotten really expensive too. Like,
Yeah.
you know, prices have
Yeah.
gone up a lot too. So it's like saving money by not
Yeah.
going out as
Yeah.
much. It's more of a treat.
Imagine
Oh,
how many bike trips you can go on if you know not eating out and drinking.
Mhm, right?
That's how I do it.
What are you gonna say, Lori?
You can take all that money to the bank, right? I was gonna say that definitely reading labels and we should probably carry a magnifying glass because often it's so small you can't
They
read
make
it.
those
till you
things
get
so
home.
small.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The no sugar, and the weighing daily, I think that's important. And just pay attention to, you know, what you put in your mouth and is it gonna affect your blood sugar, basically.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I love it.
Do you
Speaking
have any tips on how to get coconut milk without gar gum?
yeah.
Oh, we have it
So,
here.
Yeah, Dad,
Whole
did I
Foods, do you guys have Whole Foods?
did you guys look at your co-op?
We did, yeah.
And they don't have any
Everywhere.
gum.
I checked
Interesting.
every place.
Amazon.
We don't shop online.
Well, do you have Whole Foods near you?
Uh,
They don't.
there's,
Um,
no, there's a,
Oh, okay.
So
That's where I got it.
Azure Standard is making their own coconut milk now, and it doesn't have anything in it.
oh, well, we've
Yeah,
always thought of doing that.
yeah. So maybe the time has come.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kylie, what was the brand that you had? Was it like Native something?
Yeah, I got it. It was Whole Foods. Yeah. That's
We
why
have
Joel
a
was saying Amazon or
365 or whatever.
The
no,
whole
it was-
brand?
I had a picture.
Mom, I wonder if you just yeah, you did have a picture. If you just went into the co-op and requested it, I bet they would order it for you.
I'll
And
put it in the
so
chat.
they
That's
might
what I was thinking.
they might order you a case, which is fine. You just buy the whole case and go through it. Or they might
That's a
decide
good
to make a
idea.
better choice.
At the
Our
beginning of our cleanse, we did get a case from
To call.
the co-op, and I think that was free of gargum.
Yeah, I don't know.
Hmm.
Of course.
I would just request it. What were you gonna say, David?
I would say our market will buy from Azure.
Oh.
So
Oh,
if yours doesn't, maybe they could. It's
and
'cause
of course, there's,
they do have a lot of bulk stuff that's really cheap.
Azure
Uh-huh.
does.
you
Yeah,
could also check the lacrosse co-op. I hadn't thought of that.
yeah.
But-
And just buy a case of it if you find it. Yeah.
Yes.
Excellent. Okay, so here's what I'm gonna do. I feel like so here's what I would recommend is, does everybody have down what they want to keep in play moving forward post cleanse? You have that down on paper?
Mhm.
So from here, and I'm gonna just kind of give you homework and you can do with it what you will. I would come up on that same sheet of paper, I would write down one long-term goal. So this might be like a new why for you. And with that long-term goal, you're looking at like 6 months out. So it's a long time for you to work on it. Whatever that might be making more meals at home, or eating out less, or I can't think of anything else right now, but there's a ton of things that it might be. And then step 2 to this is you're going to look at your next 2-week period and you're going to come up with a couple short-term goals that you're going to work on for the next 2 weeks. And these little baby steps are going to help you achieve your long-term goal. I wouldn't necessarily do anything more than 2 short-term goals, because I feel like you don't want it to be overwhelming. You want it to be attainable. You want to be successful in this. So try and keep it doable, 2 or 3, I would say. And then lastly, I would just kind of come up with what you're going to introduce first, and kind of just a list of what that's going to be like as far as what you want to bring in and the order that you're going to do it in. Yeah, and you might want to confer with your partner. So not now, but later, just to make sure that you're both on the same page. Yeah. And I do realize that it has been an hour, so feel free to leave the meeting at any point. I did want to touch on habit change, because you've had this 21-day period where we've had these weekly meetings. So there's been that accountability piece. And as you move forward with your short-term and long-term goals, I would try and just kind of think about how you're going to set yourself up for success. And that might be, not eating sugar for however long and just choosing to stay away from those foods that you don't want to bring back in. You can also think about the things that you've been doing, like your meal planning, your food prepping, and try and set yourself up there as far as making those things as easy as possible. Like maybe you take a 2-hour period on Sunday and maybe you do it with your cocktails, right? Like to make it fun and exciting and not this terrible experience that you're gonna not look forward to each week. Yeah, so there's all sorts of ways to go about this. You can come up with some reward to give yourself at the end of that 2-week period. If it's something like maybe you've got an exercise routine in place by now, that might be putting your workouts with something that you really do love, like a podcast or listening to a book or a TV show that you watch at home. Just kind of think about ways that you can help support yourself as you move forward, and hold yourself accountable. It might be finding a buddy too that you might do some of these things with, which I think is a great idea. Yeah, so that's it. That's all I've got for you guys. Feel free to, end your meeting and go about your evening. I will send you an email and I would really appreciate it, your feedback with the program. Like I said, it's been a really long time since I've run this in this manner, so I feel super rusty, and I know that I just enjoy people's feedback and it allows me to make the program better in the future. Yeah, it's been a huge pleasure seeing you all each week. I've enjoyed that, and just hearing what your experiences have been, super, super fun. So
I did have one. Oh,
go
can I
ahead,
ask one
Kylie.
quick funny little
Yeah.
question?
Yeah.
When I were talking the other night, and I was just like, why is there like apple cider vinegar in like every recipe that you guys send? Is there a reason for that? Like, is it for health reasons, or is it like, does it add a kind of flavor, or?
There is no, I mean, there are some health benefits to apple cider vinegar, but we don't use it in that manner. We just use it to season everything.
Okay.
And I guess that's just personal taste.
Yeah, I love it because it's of the vinegars, it's like earthy and kind of goes with most everything. Like white wine to me can be kind of sweet and almost add like too much acidity to a dish. White wine
Okay.
vinegar. And then like, balsamic's great in places, but not great. Rice vinegar is great if you're doing an Asian meal or something, but that apple
Yeah.
cider vinegar, like it just it's cheap, it's easy, it works across the board, and it's a digest.
Right. Yeah. It's just
Yeah.
funny because it's like on every recipe.
That is hilarious. I never
Put a
even
little
thought
apple cider vinegar.
Yeah. Yeah, and now we just started drinking it, which, I did want to mention before folks go, is yesterday, David and I did do, we tested blood sugar after having a little bit of honey in an herbal tea. And it definitely, for both of us, I wanted both of us to try it just because I feel like everybody's body is so different that I knew his experience was going to be different from mine. And it definitely spiked both of our blood sugar levels. So just know that. And when you are consuming honey, small bits and eat it with other things. And yeah, awesome. All right, everybody.
Great.
Thank you so much.
Yep.
It's been great and connecting with the two of you and Stephanie. I really like that accountability aspect when we're going to show up and support each other. So I love that.
It is.
No, it's been great.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Trying to say
Thanks
that
a bunch, you guys.
right.
It's been fun.
Thank you.
Where to reach me if you have questions. Bye, everybody.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Do I have to stop? No, I have to. I
Later,
have to stop.
guys.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Did it not work? Oh, no, I have to.
Exit.
Let's see.
Oops.
Oops.
Oh, hi,
Hi,
Joel.
Joel. Let's do that. Oh, there we go. And what's on Mr. Mowgli?